Two men walk up to the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. All they come with is a lie and 2 sets of handcuffs. Inside, 23-year-old night guard Rick Abarth watches the camera. His finger hovers over the buzzer. He presses it. The door unlocks, letting the 2 men in. The men walk in. 30 seconds later, Rick's on the floor, duct tape across his mouth. 81 minutes later, they disappear into the night. 13 multi-million-dollar valued pieces of art gone, totaling over $500 million. Not a single clue left behind, or so it seemed. To solve this case, we need to start from the beginning. This is Frank, one of the 2 men believed to be behind the largest art heist in modern history. He wasn't a professional thief, not exactly. In his spare time, Frank liked to read crime novels, but he was more than just a fan. He studied them. He treated every heist like a story with a beginning, middle, and an escape. And this is Joe, the muscle, the enforcer. But here's the twist. Both of them had never pulled off anything close to this scale. So how did 2 small-time crooks get past the museum's defenses? How did they know where to go, what to take, and when to vanish? Because someone helped them. The FBI never released his name, but inside their case files, there's reference to a 3rd man, an insider. CD visited the museum twice that week, both times during late hours, both times asking for access to maintenance corridors. He wasn't there for art, he was mapping the system. Every blind spot, every timing delay, every camera reset cycle. Someone gave the thieves a map, and whoever CD was, he drew it by hand. The case logs stopped mentioning CD after 1991. He was never arrested, never found, just gone. But back to the museum. The Gardner Museum was elegant on the surface. Gilded frames, oil canvases, rare sculptures. But beneath the marble floors and velvet ropes, it was held together by duct tape and overworked staff. In 1990, it had no modern alarm system, no armed guards, and 2 college-age night shift employees paid $7 an hour. CD wasn't a ghost, he had a name. According to museum logs, he visited the building 4 times in the month before the heist. Each time he claimed to be part of a contractor team installing emergency lighting. Rick never admitted to knowing CD personally, but they crossed paths more than once. Former staff say Rick had a habit of leaving doors unlocked during smoke breaks, letting contractors in the side without logging them, cutting corners. No big deal, he'd say. But in the Gardner, every shortcut left an opening. During his 3rd visit, CD asked if he could check the power relay box in the basement. It was supposed to be locked. Rick let him in. No paperwork, no supervisor signature, just trust. He wasn't just scouting the building, he was learning how to vanish inside it. Randy, the 2nd guard, was quiet, barely spoke, just 25. A substitute for another guard who called out sick that week. That change in schedule was never investigated closely, but it meant one thing. CD had 1 guard he'd seen before, and 1 he hadn't. 12 minutes. That's how long Rick was alone in the museum before Randy arrived. 12 minutes. For a man like CD to come in, check the setup, and leave no trace. His strength wasn't stealth, it was psychology. CD knew that when someone wears a uniform and acts like they belong, they stop being a stranger. They become background noise, just another worker in a city that never sleeps. So when the 2 fake cops arrived, Rick didn't hesitate. He'd seen uniforms before. He trusted the wrong face once already. And by then, it was too late. They started in the Dutch room, the heart of the museum's European collection. The first target, Vermeer's The Concert. Frank stands in front of it. He tilts his head, studying it like a collector, not a thief. Then Frank slices the canvas from its frame with a utility knife, rolls it, and tucks it into a slim tube. One of only 34 Vermeers known to exist, gone in 20 seconds. Next, Rembrandt's The Storm on the Sea of Galilee. Joe approaches it carefully. Rembrandt's only known seascape, never recovered. They take a second Rembrandt, a lady and gentleman in black. Frank alone now. He takes only one piece, Manet's Chaise d'Automne. He slips it into a flat black case. Vermeer, Rembrandt, Manet, names that might not mean much to most people, but in the art world, they're gods. Each piece they touched is worth tens of millions, not just for its price, but for what it represents. Time, legacy, and beauty that can't be replaced. But a choice that baffled investigators was, why didn't Frank and Joe take even more valuable pieces, such as statues, Michelangelo's or Botticelli's? Why leave more valuable paintings hanging and take a relatively modest Manet? Even more strange, motion sensors show someone entered this room during the heist, but only one piece was removed. Strangely, they passed by another even higher value art piece, untouched. Why these pieces? Why this route? Some of the most valuable works in the building were left behind. Either they didn't know what they were doing, or they knew exactly what they were doing. The total value? Over $500 million, even with the low value pieces they stole. The cultural cost? Immeasurable. Almost 7 hours passed. 7 hours before anyone realised the Gardner Museum had been robbed. The two night guards had spent the rest of the night zip-tied to metal pipes in the basement. Cold, helpless, listening to footsteps above them as history was carved off the walls. Within an hour, the Gardner Museum became a crime scene. Within a day, it became a legend. Detectives walk through the museum, heads shaking. They stare at the empty frames. Some still have splinters from being torn apart. But here's the thing. There were no working cameras in the galleries themselves, only in the lobby. And those tapes were taken. The FBI took over immediately. That's when the questions started stacking up. Who had come through the building the week before? Who knew the camera angles? And which doors wouldn't trigger the alarms? For months, the investigation moved fast, but the answers never did. Tips flooded in, thousands of them. A painting spotted in Paris, a sketch in South America, a Vermeer in a private estate in Connecticut. There was never any solid proof or evidence to arrest anyone. But then a name surfaced quietly in the files. Not Frank, not Joe. A name that hadn't been mentioned in nearly a year. CD was never found, but internally, the FBI believed he'd been the thread that tied it all together. The one who got in, mapped the building, and vanished before the first painting left the wall. They ran a background check on him and saw he never actually worked for any company and was unemployed, which led suspicions to him always visiting the museum to check up on stuff. Isabella Stewart Gardner, the founder of the museum, left one rule in her will. Nothing in the museum could ever be changed. Not the frames, not the layout, not a single nail. That's why, to this day, those frames remain, just as Isabella demanded. The reward for their return now stands at $10 million, the biggest in history, still unclaimed. But speaking realistically, it's believed the thieves have been deceased and the artwork have either been destroyed or smuggled abroad. It was the perfect crime, not because it went unsolved, but because it still refuses to be understood.